Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, May the 15th. I'm Zach Ewing with Spencer, the Guru Urquhart. Jim Derry, technical problems today, some power outages out on the North Shore. So he's not with us, but that's okay. We got Spencer, the Guru. At my book, quite frankly, since Jim can't be watching without the power, that's an upgrade, Spencer. That is an
Right,
upgrade.
right. Oh
So
yeah, had to get a break from Dairy Downer.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate you all being here, whether you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. If you are on Twitter, heads up, we cannot see your comments. So if you want to get a comment on the air, either go over to Facebook or we would really recommend going to YouTube, and you can subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Join our community and talk some sports betting with us, some Louisiana teams, all of that. Daniel Barry is here. What's up, Daniel? Glad to see you. And Spencer, a lot to talk about today. I know a lot of people are pretty bummed after the weekend that was at Alex Box Stadium, LSU's last home baseball series of the regular season. And they lost 2 out of 3 to Mississippi State, who's in 13th place in the SEC. So, and really did it in about as brutal of a fashion as you could lose a baseball game on Sunday.
Yeah, not an encouraging weekend for LSU. Second weekend in a row that was disappointing. And it all goes back to the bullpen. And their bullpen is in shambles right now. But the good thing is that, and I know we'll get to this in a little bit about how there's just a lot of parity in college baseball. LSU's not the only team experiencing bullpen trouble. So definitely still in the mix, but not what you wanted to see, especially 2 weeks in a row against unranked SEC opponents.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's and we are going to get to this more in a minute, but it's it's the it's concerning, but it's also a concern that you'd rather have rear its head now than in a month or in 2 or 3 weeks in the postseason. So maybe maybe they've got some freshmen down there who are doing some growing up who they can try out next week against Georgia and then in the SEC tournament while the pressure's still off. Maybe not, but we'll talk more about LSU. They are no longer the favorite to win the national title at Caesars Sportsbook. That honor belongs to number 1 Wake Forest, which I have to go look. I wonder what Wake Forest was to win the national title at the beginning of the year. Horace is here. Spencer's Pop is here. And our other headlines, the Final Four in the NBA is set. We've got the Celtics and the Heat in the Eastern Conference and the Lakers and Nuggets in the Western Conference. They'll get going tomorrow night. So we're going to talk a lot of NBA in this show as well. The NBA draft lottery tomorrow. Saints rookies were in their first mini camp over the weekend. Talk to the press, some things from that, including some injury information, things like that. We'll talk about that. And then for you horse bettors out there, the Preakness draw is coming up here in about 30 minutes. And we'll try to update that as we go to live here on Bayou Bets. So let's get right into it. Our first topic is going to be LSU baseball, but we will talk quite a bit of NBA. We encourage you to go on to bet.nola.com and vote in our weekly poll question. Pretty simple this week. Which of the Final Four teams wins the NBA title? We have the odds from Caesars there for you. The Celtics, the clear favorites, almost even money favorites at this point, followed by the Nuggets and Lakers, and then the Miami Heat, a long shot, Spencer.
Right, yeah, interesting there that I was thinking that I knew the Lakers, they're a team that the public likes. I can't say I'm surprised by this, but I was thinking that the Nuggets would be a little bit lower there as far as I thought they'd be more like plus 150 or plus 200. So I think there's a little bit of value with the Nuggets because I'm still not really buying the Lakers. They've had a good run, but I'm thinking that one of either LeBron or AD kind of might start to break down here as logging a lot of minutes here these past few weeks. And during the regular season, they were able to do load management, but there's no more load management. It's playoff time. So Nuggets, though, they were strong all year at the top. And then also the Heat, a little bit intriguing there. I don't think they'll win, but there's definitely value there because the Celtics haven't been as dominant as I was thinking they'd be.
So, again, you can go on to bet.nola.com. We encourage you to vote. And then on Thursday's show, we will show the results of how you all think it'll happen. Does everyone like the Celtics as the odds do, or are there some Nuggets and Lakers backers, or the Miami Heat long shots? How many people will go for the Heat? So go on to bet.nola.com and tell us what you think. All right, let's get into our topics for the day. We're going to start with LSU baseball. And Spencer, you kind of mentioned it up top, like the bullpen is a huge issue. I mean, Paul Skeens is fantastic. LSU is going to be heavy favorites on Friday night against just about anybody in the country, including Wake Forest, who has their own good number one starter. I can't think of his name right now, and they also have a good offense. But I mean, Paul Skeens is going to be a top 2 pick in the draft. And then the LSU offense is going to win a lot of games by itself as well. They also have a pretty good number 2 starter in Ty Floyd, who pitched well on Saturday. However, when you get past that, they've had some injuries. Some good guys are on the shelf for the rest of the year, so that's part of it. But they just haven't really been able to find any depth that can get those outs in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning.
Yeah, and the thing I'm concerned about is that are they going to have time to find the depth? I mean, it's getting late in the year. I mean, next week's the SEC tournament, so they're scrambling right now. I feel like. I mean, I saw Rab putting his column about how it's like the Emperor has no bullpen. I mean, they've got there's an Empire lineup. The top of the rotation's great with Skeens, but you got a big chink in the armor there with that bullpen. So we'll have to see. Someone's gonna have to step up. If they can, then this team should be the favorite. But it's getting late. It's almost like, is it too late now for anyone? I mean, there's usually guys though in baseball that can, especially like you mentioned earlier, is like maybe a freshman or two can step up and be the hero. Because when you've got Dylan Cruz and all those big bats, as well as Skeens at the top of the rotation, you just gotta have an unexpected name come up though to support them, because if not, if this keeps going, then it's like you can't. I mean, they're losing to unranked teams right now, so unless this bullpen gets cleaned up, they're not going to Omaha.
Yeah, I like where El Rey's head's at. Joel Embiid saying, "Oh, me and James can't do it." Well, we'll get to Joel Embiid. Okay, we'll get to that clown. But look, in baseball, that's especially true. Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens might be the best 2 players in the country. Probably are the 2 best players in the country. But in a baseball team, you're going to have some depth, and LSU really doesn't have it right now. Now, Jim made the point last week. Maybe it's a good thing to have this hiccup. You don't want to go in on a huge roll like Tennessee did last year. It just doesn't seem to work out very well in really in any sport, but especially in baseball, where the team comes in 52-4 or whatever, and somewhere along the line they hit some adversity and they're not used to it. Well, you'd rather hit that adversity now. But this just goes to show you, as we look at these odds, Wake Forest 4-1 at Caesars Sportsbook. By the way, we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. And if you want to bet on these or any other odds we show you, go to NOLA.com/Caesars if you're not signed up. Get our best bonus offer. That's NOLA.com/Caesars. This just goes to show you, Spence. We've been telling you all year, don't bet on LSU. They were 3-1 like back in February and March. Like, don't. You can wait and get the same odds, or as it turned out, you can get better odds on them here in May, just a month away from the College World Series. And honestly, if they struggle a little bit at Georgia this weekend or at the SEC tournament next weekend, you may even get a number higher than 5-1 on LSU going into the tournament. Like that, there's still maybe some time to wait there.
Yeah, there's no way I'd bet LSU unless it's over 5-1. I mean, anything under 5-1 is ridiculous. The same goes for Wake Forest, because I was actually looking at Wake Forest's resume, and I mean, they've been playing well, but they've lost to some not so good ACC teams along the way, and the ACC isn't nearly as good as the SEC. So to me, there's no value in either Wake Forest or LSU. If you're going to take a shot on somebody at this point, I'd go with one of the SEC teams after LSU, maybe a Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. I mean, they've got a lot of options there. If you're looking to take a shot now, go with someone with longer odds. I feel like it's just the way college baseball is. Betting a favorite tends to be a sucker's bet.
Yeah, and I mean, like to your point, LSU's plus 450 right now. You could get them. Let's say they do go on ahead and make it to Omaha, to the College World Series, final 8 teams. You could probably still get them at 3-1. Maybe it's plus 250 at that point. Like, you're going to give up some odds, but you're still going to get a pretty good number. And at that point, you've taken away all the variance from the regional, all the variance from the super regional, and you're down to the point where they just need to win 4 or 5 more games. And you're still getting a pretty good number. So I don't know why, betting on it right now seems you're better off just betting them game to game, honestly, if you like LSU. And to your point too, like these are SEC games. I understand Mississippi State's having a bad year. I understand you don't want to lose a series to Auburn, but you know the SEC will wear you down. You see, Wake Forest is the favorite, but then you've got LSU, Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas. The next team on this list is Tennessee. You go down a couple more, it's Vanderbilt. I mean, like half of the top 10 teams in the nation are in the SEC, more than half. And so you are going to face a tough test. And we've said this before. Jim and I have said this before. It's harder to win the SEC tournament in baseball than it is to win the College World Series. I think LSU will be fine during regional weekend. I assume they'll pitch down and either start Ty Floyd or maybe even somebody else in their opener against the 4 seed. Then, assuming they can win that game just with offense, you then pitch Paul Skeens in that sort of pivotal game between 1-0 teams in the regional, and then you set yourself up to get out. I would be a little more worried about a super regional where you're going to be facing a very good opponent. You're going to use Skeens on Thursday or Friday, whatever the first game of the super regional is, or I guess Friday or Saturday it is, and then you're going to have to find a way to win another one. And if Skeens should lose, you're in real trouble. So that would be where LSU would be. I think the super regional round is going to be the tough one, but I still think this is a team that can get to Omaha and make some noise.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because they've clearly got the talent to do so. It's just from a betting standpoint, there's just not really value here because I feel like the books, they know how talented LSU is, know it's a team that the public likes. So it just makes it just not a very smart bet because with the way baseball is, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you have a couple balls bounce the wrong way or something, there's a lot of times it doesn't matter. So it's just I'd rather take a chance on a longer shot.
Yep, yeah, and I think that's the way to go if you want to bet college baseball right now at Caesars. Reminder, we are looking for subscribers over at the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Click that button for us. If you're watching on the NOLA.com channel, go over there. We've got lots of good content coming your way over the summer and as we get ready for NFL season. And, of course, through the end of college baseball season as well. And the NBA, let's move on. Let's talk NBA finals, conference finals starting tomorrow with the Nuggets and Lakers game 1. And then you've got Celtics and Heat game 1 on Wednesday night. I do like it, Spencer. A couple days off before the series start. And I don't think anybody's got more than a day off the entire conference finals. I think it's play a game, day off, play a game every other day for both series. And so that means we've got a game to watch every night, which is good. But also, you don't have – I hate that when these teams like the Lakers, who maybe don't have the depth of some other teams, and they're playing LeBron James and Anthony Davis 43 minutes a game, they don't get 3 days off in a row to rest those guys, especially playing at altitude. And to me, we're going to show some series prices here. You mentioned it at the top. The biggest surprise in any of these odds to me, I make the Nuggets at least minus 200 favorites in this series. That number is low to me.
Right, yeah, I think it goes back to what I said earlier about how the public tends to like the Lakers. They got LeBron and AD, so it's the low-hanging fruit. Take the team with the 2 best players, which if you're looking at it, yeah, that probably is the best combo of top 2 players. But when you look at their ages, I mean, LeBron's old, and AD he's basically like an old man the way he's always banged up. Where with Denver, you've got a fairly young superstar in Jokic, who's the ultimate team player, gets all his guys involved. Jamal Murray is on the cusp of becoming a superstar. Kind of reminds me of the way Kyrie Irving was with the Cavs. LeBron was the star, then Kyrie Irving was like the ascending star. So I feel like Jamal Murray kind of giving me those kind of vibes. So where I think that Nuggets are in a good position and actually offer some value there. I mean, you don't even have to pay not even minus 200. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think and Jamal Murray, I'm not even sure he's an ascending star. The guy was their star when they made the conference finals in the bubble. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he had gotten injured. So he's kind of just
James
bouncing
Harden's
back.
stealing money from the Sixers. I agree with this too. We'll get to Joel Embiid, but I understand Embiid had a terrific season. I'm not gonna kill voters who made him the MVP. But Nikola Jokic, man, easily could have been the 3-time winner of the MVP. And we're seeing it in the playoffs. I mean, he is just dominating games. And Jerry's here. Hello, Jerry. Nuggets and Celtics.
Jerry?
Yeah, that's who I've got. I just don't – I'd love to sit here and pick an upset. I just don't see it. Heat 4-1. I think probably 20 to 25% of the time the Heat win this series. So that number is about right to me. I think the Lakers, though, there's no value in those odds at all. I sound chalky, but to be fair, I've got futures on both the Celtics at 6-1 to win the NBA title and the Nuggets from preseason at 20-1. So I've been on these teams for a long time, like them both, and I don't see them slowing down. Like I really don't see a reason for me to hedge at this point. Maybe with the Heat, the Lakers and Nuggets. One point about that series: neither team has lost a home playoff game yet. And obviously, if that keeps up, the Nuggets will win. But I think the altitude could be a real problem for this Lakers team. They're going to have to win game one. If they don't win game one tomorrow night, then you're looking at, okay, now you get 1 day rest. You're going to come back to Denver, play in that altitude again with guys who play, again, you've got 3 starters who play 40-plus minutes a game on that team. And that could be a problem for the Lakers. They fall behind 2-0 in that series. Not that it's over because they haven't lost at home yet, but they're really going to be in trouble. And Horace is best all-around big man he's seen in 50 years. I was looking at what is it? The PER, the basically win expectancy shares for the NBA playoffs. Nikola Jokic has the best mark ever in the NBA playoffs. And I know he hasn't played a ton of playoff games, so maybe that number will go down. But like you look at Basketball Reference, this guy is off to a historically good start to his playoff career. The only thing he's really missing is that NBA Finals appearance and doing it on the really big stage. And so we'll see what they can do against the Lakers. Jessica is here. Hello, Jessica. Good to see you. And the other thing I'm curious about, Spencer, what you think here. We see here series prices only Nuggets minus 165, but they're 6-point favorites in game one. I mean, to me, that right there tells you they're almost as big of a favorite as the Celtics are on Wednesday. Don't the Nuggets have to be bigger favorites?
Yeah, I think it's just, to me, for the Lakers, if you're the Lakers, you've got to take one of the first 2 in Denver. If you're down in that 0-2 hole, it doesn't matter if you go back. You could win the next 2 in LA. I just feel like if you can't set the tone early and win in Denver, then you're not going to win the series, because that's what the Lakers did against Memphis. They set the tone early. They took game 1 in Memphis,
and Golden State. Same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, because the Lakers have been on the road team in all these series. So, yeah, they're going to have to do that here with the Nuggets. But I just think it goes back to my point that LeBron and AD, I just don't have the faith in them. I don't have the confidence that they've got enough left in the tank, because in that year they won the finals. That was the bubble season. They had all those months off to recharge. They haven't had that this year. Yeah, they did some load management, but we're now into the conference finals. Not a whole lot of rest here in these playoffs. So, yeah, it's just the Heat, though, I'm kind of intrigued by because of Jimmy Butler. I mean, the way he's playing has been so impressive, to where if I'm going to take a dog, I'd take them, because for one, they've got, longer odds. You get more value. And also, I think they've got just as good a chance or better, because the Celtics, I mean, yeah, they got past the Sixers fairly easy in game 7, but the Sixers were giving them trouble there. And even the Hawks a little bit in that first round. The Celtics haven't been as impressive as I was thinking. So if I'm going to take a dog, Heat over Lakers all day.
There's no doubt the Celtics have messed around. They've played with their food, whatever you want to call it, a little bit. And it certainly could have cost them against Philadelphia. They ended up pulling it out. But they needed, Jason Tatum hit 3 of the clutchest threes you'll ever see in game 6 to pull that one out. And then they cruise in game 7. And they also messed around with Atlanta in the first round. I mean, they really should have closed that series out in 5 and had, so again, what you're talking about, that playing those extra games, does that catch up with you down the road? I think, Jimmy Butler, much respect to him, but again, you're asking one guy to do an awful lot over and over and over again. And sooner or later, the Celtics are going to be, the Celtics are going to outlast the Heat. Your Pops brings up a good point here too. Like I don't want to play the conspiracy theory. I don't believe that actually happens, but LeBron is the type of player who gets calls. He barrels his way into the paint. He goes to the basket. He complains a lot. Look, like, face it. And I'm going to say some good things about LeBron later, so I can say that. He is that is the equalizer in that series. If Nikola Jokic picks up 3 fouls in the first half of a game sometime, that could change a game completely. The Nuggets don't have him available. The Lakers got the Warriors in foul trouble a couple of times. They were able to take advantage of that, especially at home. And so I'm not saying the Lakers have no chance. I'm just saying I don't necessarily like these numbers when you look at just plus 300. I think it needs to be higher than that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Lakers, yeah, if they were something like, plus 500-600, I'd be like, maybe something. Because I mean, LeBron James, it's like, and you got AD too, so you've got that is the best duo out here. I mean, Tatum Brown's nice for the Celtics. Joker Murray's really good too, but there's no denying AD LeBron, that's the best duo. There's no doubt, but I just don't. There's the injuries. Like I have a feeling one of them is gonna get hurt. Like I'm not trying to be a hater, but I just the way they were during the season, they were constantly banged up. They go into every game with a probable designation, to where it's just hard for me to have faith in guys that are always they're like ticking time bombs. But I feel like this is Joker's time. Like this is his time to show what he's got. Him and Tatum. Like I feel like both of them. Like one of them's got to win it. I feel like because they're both they're in their prime. They're in the prime of their careers. Where LeBron he's still amazing. I mean, I know you'll get to that in your rant, Zach, but like, he's still playing like someone in his prime. But he's not quite as good though. His body anyway. His body is a little more injury prone.
No doubt about it. I mean, I don't think you're saying anything controversial there, so I'm with you. A couple other things in the NBA going on before we move on. One of them is the NBA draft lottery tomorrow night. Victor Wembanyama is going to be the number one pick. We know that. The French superstar, phenom. If you haven't seen his highlights or seen him play, like you're going to be seeing a lot of this kid in the fall. I think he's 19 years old. Just phenomenal freak athlete. Like Kevin Durant and Giannis combined. I heard somebody describe that way.
Wow.
That's putting a lot on the kid, I understand.
Wow.
But he is going to be the number one pick. The New Orleans Pelicans have a couple of ping pong balls in there, but just a couple. I believe it's 0.5% chance the Pelicans get the number one pick. But I will say this: that's a 1 in 200.
You're saying there's a chance.
200 to 1 shot. Yeah, exactly. Cue Lloyd Christmas. If the Pelicans somehow get lucky, and they got lucky to get Zion Williamson, this would be that they had like a 6% chance to get Zion Williamson. This is 1/12 of that, so they'd have to get even luckier. If they could somehow pair Victor Wembanyama with a healthy Zion Williamson and a healthy Brandon Ingram, so now I've gone from 200 to 1 to 500 to 1, right? But they might be your NBA title favorites. I mean, Wembanyama is supposed to be that good. We saw what the Pelicans looked like with Zion and Ingram healthy the few times last year that happened. This is a real prize. So if you got a lucky charm, or you're going to knock on wood, or whatever it is, you got a rabbit's foot, a voodoo doll, whatever it is, Victor Wembanyama and the Pelicans would be a real intriguing thing. More likely, I think the three teams that have the best odds are the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Pistons, maybe. And if he should go to the Spurs or Rockets, well, then you got to deal with him a whole bunch every year. He's in your division. So that's more likely for the Pelicans. But this NBA draft lottery tomorrow, that's exactly right. There's a lot of ifs for the Pelicans. But if it does happen, I think it's going to be tremendous. The other thing, Spencer, with the NBA would be Ja Morant. On another, well, I say caught. I mean, he broadcast the freaking thing. He broadcast himself waving a gun in a car again after he was suspended for doing that during the regular season, and supposedly got counseling and gun safety classes and all this stuff. And then he just, to me, less of an issue with having a gun. I mean, I think the gun is registered. I don't think he's been charged with a crime or anything like more of an issue for me is the stupidity of, oh, that didn't go over very well. Maybe I shouldn't do that again. Not 2 freaking months later, you're doing it again. Like that to me, what an idiot. What an idiot.
Yeah, and I think it was his friend that was broadcasting it, so he was probably stupid and thought, oh, well, they're not going to see me. But it's like, dude, you got to be smarter than that. It just tells me that the Grizzlies, like, are just not a team that I'd have faith in long term, because I feel like they're their own worst enemy. They've got a lot of talent, but they need to bring in some veteran leadership over there, because Ja Morant is clearly not at that. He doesn't have the maturity to be that leader there, and so like the problem is though they've got a lot of big contracts now. They built around him and Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bain. Like they're kind of stuck in a way with those guys, so they're kind of there's not really much they can do. So to me, if I'm a Memphis fan, you feel like you're just kind of stuck in purgatory. You'll probably be a top 4 seed because you play great defense, but then when the playoffs come, they just seem to fold because seems like the Lakers come up and just outscore them.
Yeah, it is a big time problem for a franchise that even just a few months ago, like turn of the new year, they seemed like they were in really good shape and would be a lot of fun to watch for a long time. But if your leading guy is going to be that much of an idiot, yeah, I can't bet on him. I actually bet on him this year and things kind of fell apart. Now I will say that's one team kind of like Joel Embiid and the Sixers. They got a better record without Ja Morant than they do with him. But at some point, you're going to need that guy who can go get a bucket, right? And Ja is that guy. All right, NBA playoffs start tomorrow. We'll talk more about that or NBA conference finals start tomorrow, of course. The playoffs resume. We'll talk more about that on Thursday's edition of Bayou Bets. Let's move on. Elsewhere in the wide world of sports this week would be the PGA Championship, Spencer. And I know Jim's more of a golf guy than you. Jim and I could talk about golf all day long. But my take on this, let's look at it from a macro perspective. We went into the Masters last month, and everyone, are you on Rahm, Scheffler, or Rory? Okay, it's going to be one of those three. It's going to be one of those three. Pick one. And it ended up being Rahm, so that was right. Now, out of the Live Tour, we had Brooks Koepka, who actually led that tournament most of the weekend before Jon Rahm ran him down on Sunday. The narrative has changed a little bit because of that. Because Koepka, people were reminded that Brooks Koepka can win majors. And let's look at the full odds here. He's there at 20-1 at Caesars as of this afternoon. And then the other part of this is Rory McIlroy really struggling. He missed the cut at the Masters. He almost missed the cut at the RBC Heritage. I don't know if it's really a big three as much as it's just a big two anymore with Scottie Scheffler and Jon Rahm. And then you look at the next tier with Rory and Xander Schauffele and Cantlay and Koepka and all of these guys. So you're going to look at this, I know, more from an outside perspective because you're not following the PGA week to week, Spencer. But who do you like in this one?
Yeah, they Cantlay. I was kind of reading about it earlier, try to catch up. Cantlay at 18-1 seems like a pretty good value. He's been playing well. He's kind of, I feel like, on the cusp of like becoming near the Scheffler Rahm territory. Where Rory's kind of interesting because I feel like this could be a fairly good buy low. I think he's going to be really locked in and trying to prove the doubters wrong in this tournament. But I still wouldn't bet on it at 11-1 because what if he truly is in a funk? What if he's playing hurt? Something we don't know about. So to me, I wouldn't bet on him at that price, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good PGA because he's clearly, if he's healthy, he's still up there with those guys. He's just been in kind of a funk lately. So we'll see. I think this will be a tell with Rory. If he struggles again, I think it might be injury related. But if he's healthy, I think he'll bounce back.
The thing people don't always realize with Rory too is with this tournament, this is the guy's from Northern Ireland, but in some ways this is a hometown course for him. His wife is from Rochester, New York, where this tournament is taking place. He was at Oak Hill during COVID. He spent a lot of time there. Like he knows this course. And Oak Hill last hosted a major back in 2013, but it underwent a major redesign in 2019. And in 2019, so a lot of things changed. Well, Rory's played it. He spent that's where he holed up for the pandemic when things were locked down. He went up to his in-laws in Rochester and spent a lot of time at Oak Hill. I think you're right. I think he's got a definite leg up at this course. And if it doesn't turn out that way, that's a sign maybe there's something that we don't know about wrong with Rory. Are golfers required? I believe there is some reporting system on the PGA Tour. Yes. Now, the PGA Championship, and the reason you see live golfers here, is not actually part of the PGA Tour. It's put on by the PGA of America, which is a different organization. It's confusing, but that's the way it goes. So, but I do think they're supposed to list themselves if they have an injury as questionable or doubtful or whatever. Now, having said that, if you bet on somebody and they scratch before the tournament starts, it's a refund. If they even play one shot and then say, "Oh no, my wrist hurts or my back hurts or whatever it is," you're out of luck. That's a loss. So keep that in mind as you bet on the PGA. I actually kind of like Rory. I think you're getting him at 11-1. When if this tournament had been played before the Masters, he would have been down where Rahm and Scheffler are at the 7-1 range. So I think you're getting a boost. I agree with you on Cantlay. And I think you got to bet Brooks too, or at least think about it. Brooks has shown that he's a guy who plays well on tough courses. He plays well in majors. If you can stomach betting a live guy, go for it. I do think a big name wins this tournament, though, and I know one of Jim's points was you want a guy in good form. Somebody in good form usually wins the PGA, which would eliminate Rory. But a lot of these other guys have top 10 in a lot of tournaments lately, including Cantlay, including Scheffler and Rahm and Xander. Finau won in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. Dustin Johnson won the Live Tour event last week. Jason Day won on the PGA Tour last week. So a lot of these guys fit that mold. So I think this is a tournament where you're more likely to see one of these top guys win than really go for a huge long shot. So that's the PGA. That begins Thursday. And finally, we're going to talk a little Saints rookie camp. And at the bottom of the screen, Spencer, we do have the point spreads in the market for the Saints' first 8 games, which is really worth a conversation in and of itself. None of these games have higher than a 3.5 point spread. And that actually goes, if you go through all 17 games, 3.5 points is the highest spread that they have. The biggest underdog they are in any game is that game at New England. They're a field goal underdog. Every other game in which the Saints are not favored is by less than a field goal. It just goes to show you how easy this schedule is.
Right, yeah, I was reading Jeff Duncan's column about the 10 reasons to be optimistic about the Saints. Well, 3 of them had to do with the schedule. Like, I feel like the Saints team, I mean, they're looking pretty solid, but I think their record might end up a little better than normal because of, I mean, look at this. It's a cakewalk. I mean, Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill to start, then Bryce Young. We don't even know if it'll be Bryce Young. There's an Andy Dalton. They're going to have Andy Dalton start off taking first team reps. So it might be a rematch with Dalton. They want to, getting to face the old quarterback from last year. Then Jordan Love in week 3, Green Bay. That's going to be just a disaster to start. Even Rodgers, his first year with Green Bay wasn't that great. So, and I don't think Love is as good. So I think I think the Saints are a great value in that spot. Green Bay favored. I mean, the Saints should win that. And then the Bucs at home, Baker Mayfield, he's a train wreck. And the Patriots, Mac Jones was a train wreck last year. Texans, another rookie quarterback. Then Trevor Lawrence. But, I mean, if you're 4-2, that's kind of like a lagniappe game. And then you get the Colts with another rookie quarterback. So, to me, the Saints at minimum should be 5-3 after this first half. If they're not at least 5-3, to me, I'm not happy because with the way the schedule breaks. I mean, you get so many favorable matchups. You got to take advantage of those, or else you're probably gonna blow the opportunity. Just like what happened last year. They started off bad and did a little better in the second half, but it was too little, too late.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: if they're 5-3, they're actually in really good shape because there's more home games in the second half of the schedule, as we talked about last week. And so, if they're 5-3. The Saints are, I think, on route to the playoffs. The rookie camp this weekend, it's hard to, especially the part that's open to media. I mean, these reports, Brian Brzee looked really good. He looked really athletic. Well, I hope he looked athletic. He's a number 1 draft pick. So, the big takeaways for me, one, Kendry Miller was not able to participate. He's still nursing a knee injury that he suffered in the national semifinal game for TCU against Michigan. He did not play in the national championship game against Georgia. So that's a little bit of a surprise to see him out of action, but you have to assume the Saints knew that. Spencer going in, I mean, before you draft a guy, you're going to do a physical and everything. So they probably knew he wasn't quite going to be ready. He did say, "Hey, I feel fine." The doctors are just being cautious, which is probably the right move given that it's May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Miller thing. I know Jim was worried about it earlier in the pre-production, but I think he'll be okay. It just he's got to be out there though by the time I'd say by June, late June or so, early July. Gotta be there and be 100% for camp. It can't have this be a Michael Thomas situation where it just lingers on and then he end up shut down. Because as a rookie, you gotta get those reps in early. You can't be behind the 8 ball, or else you're probably not going to see the field much. And if Kamara does get suspended, Jamal Williams is going to need some help. I mean, Jamal Williams last year, he was really good, but he had a compliment there in Detroit with DeAndre Swift, where he didn't have to carry it all himself. So yeah, this Kendre Miller thing's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And Michael Thomas, so I don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I just have no faith in him. Hopefully he'll prove me wrong, but man, it's just already still not playing, had to get screws removed or something. Just it's
I'm
always
glad you
something
brought
with
that
him.
up, because that was my other takeaway from this weekend is Michael Thomas had some quote unquote hardware taken out from his injured foot. And look, again, this did not sound like it was a surprise to Dennis Allen and the Saints. They knew he wasn't going to be ready for OTAs. But to me, it goes to show me that, look, was this injury that serious last year? Because last year, if you remember, well into the season, like week 10 or week 11, it was, he might come back. And then finally, okay, he had a setback. He's not going to come back. Was the setback that severe? Did he ever have a chance of coming back? I mean, he's still getting hardware taken out of his foot and having procedures done. And here we are 4 months after last season ended. I just don't, much like the Grizzlies we talked about, I don't know that you can bet futures on the Saints. I don't trust the team's communication with injuries. I don't know how bad this injury is. I don't know whether to expect Michael Thomas back. You certainly can't count on it.
Yeah, they brought in James Washington today on the 1-year deal, veteran wide receiver. But, I mean, that's the issue is that's about all that there's left on the market. There's really nothing left. I mean, Jarvis Landry, but as we saw last year, he was a shell of his former self. So there's just – you're stuck. I mean, you're stuck with just hoping that Michael Thomas is healthy as far as any sort of slot receiver presence, because Olave and Rashid Shaheed, they're field stretchers. They're not going to play. They can't play that Michael Thomas role. Or if you do, you're robbing them of their best skill, which is to stretch the field. And Derek Carr's still got a good arm to where you want to use those guys in that role. So maybe someone could step up if Thomas isn't ready, but I just don't really have much faith in that, because they tried time after time different guys. Keith Kirkwood, Marquez Callaway, he's a Traquan. I mean, he's maybe A.T. Perry, the 6th-round rookie, but it just seems to be the same crap. I wish the Saints, here's a hot take for y'all. I wish the Saints would have just moved on from Michael Thomas, just released him, wiped their hands clean of him. I mean, I'm tired of this. I wish they'd have just had turned the page and have a new slot receiver, because maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I'm tired of this saga.
I'll disagree on that just from the standpoint of the deal that he signed was pretty team friendly. It's laden with incentives. I mean, if he produces, he'll get paid. Well, let's give it another year. I mean, I think he really could help. Right. But I understand what you're saying. It is, from our perspective, it's just frustrating to listen to the communication. Horace asked for the same. No, they will not play a game in Europe this year. There was a rumor that the Patriots game would be in Frankfurt, Germany, but it's actually, I think, Colts and Patriots that's going to be in Frankfurt. So the Saints are Europe free this year.
Jim's happy.
Just thinking about Europe games makes me think of Jim ranting, shouting at clouds about how unfair it is that players might have to take a cross-Atlantic flight. Oh my gosh, the iniquity. I just can't believe they might be asked to travel more than a couple of time zones. Oh my gosh. So I guess that means it's time for our rants. Yeah, and Horace is right. This is the last chance for Thomas. So I'm going to give my rant, and this is going to sound a little bit funny, but I'm on the NBA playoffs. I'm watching LeBron just close out the Warriors, possibly end that dynasty with a phenomenal Game 6 performance. And my point is, I'm not sure LeBron is still given his due. After everything that he's done, he's won NBA titles in three different cities, Cleveland, Miami, and Los Angeles. He's made it to the finals, I think, 8 times or 9 times. This is his 12th conference finals. And I say this, I want to preface this by saying that I think Denver will win that series, because I think Nikola Jokic is still underappreciated as well. And I think it's Denver's time, like you said, Spencer. But we got to sit back and appreciate this man, because there are still people out there, and I think everybody agrees, okay, he's a Hall of Famer, he's a great player. There are still people out there who say LeBron James is he's a top 10 player all time, but I wouldn't put him in my top 5, or I'd put Kobe over him, or I'd put Wilt over him, you got to stop with that. The guy is a top 2 player of all time. And I'm not going to dethrone Michael Jordan, because I know that's a whole other can of worms. And Michael Jordan was basically perfect for the last 6 full years of his career. But LeBron James is a hell of a lot closer to being the greatest player of all time than he is to being number 3. Okay. He is a hell of a lot closer to number 1 than he is to anywhere else outside of the top 2. The man is phenomenal. He's not the same kind of player as Jordan. He's not the same kind of player as Kobe. But given everything that he does to help a team win, between his passing, his defense, his shooting, his and the longevity and the track record of being available and making his teammates better, like, you got to sit back and watch this series, because it may be the last time LeBron's ever this deep in the playoffs. And you got to sit back and watch next year, and maybe the year after, his last couple of years in the league, and appreciate what we get to see. Because somehow, maybe it's because he started his career so soon after Jordan ended his, or actually, I think Jordan may have still had 1 year when LeBron started. It's like people want to defend Michael Jordan and say, well, this guy can't possibly be as good. And they come up with reasons to downgrade LeBron James. All this guy has done is win. 12 trips to the conference finals. 12 trips to the conference finals. That is phenomenal. That means you're in the top 4 teams in a 30-team league more than half of the time in your career. Has he performed as well in the finals as Jordan did? No, not always, although he's been fine. He hasn't been bad. But we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years. But I would say sit back and appreciate a man who I think is still not appreciated enough for what he is.
Right, yeah, and I think it goes to show that, because LeBron's a little more brash, more of a big talker than Jordan, that he gets more haters. He got a lot of haters.
A lot of crap, man.
Yeah, I didn't grow up in that era, so yeah, I'm probably not as familiar with it. But yeah, LeBron, though, it's like, yeah, he's just more kind of controversial. But it's just, you can't put your biases in the way. But the problem is most of these list makers do that, where they don't take their bias out to where then they have LeBron ranked they're 6 or 10. I mean, that's ridiculous.
This is what I'm talking about. El Rey, this is just wrong. It's wrong from a historical perspective. It's wrong from a statistical perspective. LeBron is not behind Kobe in any way, shape, or form. He's not behind Bill Russell. It's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Russell, I could maybe see Wilt Chamberlain because of just how dominant he was, but Bill Russell that was a team thing. I mean, if he wouldn't have been on the Celtics, Bill Russell wouldn't even be in the top 20 of all time. Where LeBron, you could put him anywhere, and he's going to be in the GOAT conversation.
And I'm not trying to downgrade. Kobe was a top 10 player of all time. Kobe's a great player. Okay, I'm not trying to downgrade Kobe. But to compare him to LeBron with all the different things LeBron does in the game, it's not the same. It just does not measure up. Kobe was more inefficient offensively. He was more inefficient defensively. He's not as good of a passer. He's certainly not as good of a paint defender. Like, there's no comparison. You can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. I love Kobe Bryant, but yeah, he was more like not as efficient, and just the way LeBron can just drive to the goal like that. I mean, just take over a game physically. Like it's. I don't think there's gonna ever be another LeBron James. It's like, I mean, as good as Kobe was, he wasn't quite on MJ's level. It's probably never gonna be another MJ and never another LeBron, because of the way they just set the bar too high. It's like splitting hairs, but the way things are going, I think by the time he retires, because he's probably still got another couple of years left, I think LeBron will be the undisputed GOAT. Not in everyone's eyes, but in most people's eyes, because of the sheer amount of accomplishments he'll have had.
And that's the other thing. People don't want to give credit for the longevity and the availability.
Those
things are skills. Yeah, to be able to play 60, 70-plus games a year for 20 years is a skill. It's a skill to stay healthy and stay available. Kobe didn't have that at the end of his career. Jordan didn't have that at the end of his career. And so to me, that's another point in LeBron's favor. So I know it's unpopular. He's in the social media era. He followed Jordan. Nobody likes it. But I just think the guy, for as much as he's accomplished and as much as he's highly rated by most people, is still somehow underrated. All right, Spence, for your rant, you're going to go the other direction.
Yeah, gotta address the Sixers, man. My dad had brought it up earlier about James Harden, but to me, it's more on on Joel Embiid, because I mean during the regular season he puts up all these numbers, and then the postseason comes and it's a fraud because it doesn't match. I mean, he had the biggest drop off I think in history as far as his points per game dropping in the postseason as compared to the regular season. And I feel like a lot of this falls on Doc Rivers, a supposedly great coach, veteran coach. I mean, he's as a guy like that, a veteran coach like Doc Rivers, you're supposed to get the most out of your stars. You're supposed to be able to get in their face, motivate them, and get the most out of them. And Doc Rivers simply doesn't do that. And this happens year after year after year. And it's crazy to me that he's still has a job, probably will still have it heading into next season. Yet Monty Williams, who just acquired Kevin Durant, didn't even hardly get to put him in the lineup during the regular season because he was hurt all the time. And then they, take the Nuggets to 6. Don't completely suck, didn't live up to expectations. But I mean, the point is, though, he lost his job and was also a 2-time coach of the year for the Suns. He loses his job trying to implement a new guy, where Doc Rivers has had Joel Embiid now at least 3 or 4 years, and it's the same crap every year. So I'm tired of the 76ers. That's, speaking of future, that's a team I will not touch next year. I don't care who they get to replace Harden. Hell, they could bring in Jimmy Butler to replace him. I still wouldn't bet him because of the fact that you just can't trust Joel Embiid when it matters.
I agree, and I agree. As a fan of the Clippers for a long time, like Doc Rivers, when the rubber hits the road, just has never gotten it done in the playoffs. Only coach who's blown multiple 3-1 leads. This wasn't a 3-1 lead, but you're up 3-2 going back home, lead in the fourth quarter. And to be honest, like, I'm not sure Doc was terrible in this series. I think Jason Tatum just finally rose up. The Celtics were just a better team. I mean, they were like minus 600 in the series for a reason. So I don't necessarily blame him, but look, there's a track record. And I don't know, if you really want to win a championship, I like Doc Rivers a little bit better with a younger team and try to teach guys, move them along, kind of be a surprising playoff team than I do. If you want to go chase a title, Doc's not your guy. I just don't think he is. And Monty Williams has shown, hell, they almost won one a couple of years ago. He can make better playoff adjustments than Doc can, and yet he's going to be the one out of a job.
Yeah, someone's going to pick up Monty, though. He'll go somewhere. I don't know, maybe the Bucks. I mean, if the 76ers are smart, they might can Doc and go with him. But I just think they'll probably stick with Doc because that's just Embiid was the MVP. And if they're going to probably go with what Embiid wants. And if he likes Doc, then they'll keep Doc. But, I mean, they're going to have a big offseason, though, because James Harden, it's all but assured he's going to opt out of his deal. So we'll see what happens. But I don't care who they get, though. Like I said, I'm not buying them.
I hear you. Well, lots to come in the NBA playoffs. Let's see. We said we're going to update Preakness draw. Let's see if they're finished with that before we sign off for the day. Okay, here we go. Mage got the number 3 position, which is not bad. Maybe just slightly further inside than you'd want to be, but only 8 horses in this race, so being number 3, not bad. Mage currently an 8-5 moneyline favorite. That's plus 160 for those of you who like the American odds. The second favorite is First Mission, 5-2, all the way on the outside is number 8 post. But again, only 8 horses. So National Treasure on the pole at 4-1, and then Blazing Sevens at 6-1 at the number 7 spot. Does Mage get it done, Spencer?
I think so. The thing is, Mage kind of closed in the Derby, and it's like this is a short race to where I would think so. But I'm gonna do more research on the Preakness. I didn't bet the Derby, so I didn't get to watch it. I was at Jazz Fest, but for the Preakness, I should be able to watch it, and then might have to bet a little bit because I like horse racing for sure.
Hey, whoever gave Jim the advice with all those to pick Mage and all those try boxes he made, and Jim made out like a bandit in the Derby. We got to get that.
Yeah, that's wild.
All right, we'll be back on. Spencer, you'll be back tomorrow with Gabe, the Fantasy Roundup at 4:00, and they'll talk all about how Michael Thomas is a cornerstone fantasy. No, they will not say that. But they'll have plenty of fantasy talk for you in baseball and football. And we will be back. Jim and I will be back Thursday at 4:00 for Bayou Bets. Until then, if you haven't already, sign up for Caesars Sportsbook, NOLA.com/Caesars. You get our best welcome offer, or Caesars best welcome offer through us. So go to NOLA.com/Caesars. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. And we hope you're back with us on Thursday. Until then, for Spencer the Guru, I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching.